Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Arm&Gun here. Let's get gun-pilled with another dose of gun education. March! Today we're looking at the Not a Schmeisser MP40. People keep calling this thing Schmeisser. And honestly, it gets on my nerves a little bit because it is not a Schmeisser. The Schmeisser, well, we'll get into it. But just not a Schmeisser. Guys, the goal today is to learn you this Not a Schmeisser a little bit more so you understand it as a platform, as a weapon system. And if you ever encountered it, you know how to use it effectively. For example, I wish I had seen a video how to use a Dishka tripod effectively because I didn't. And it decided to dig a hole through my floor. Yeah, that's not gonna help me get my rental deposit back. Houston, we have a dilemma. I apparently did not have the tripod locked in properly. And it's it's let me know. But guys, the MP40 is iconic. This is probably one of the most prevalent firearms that Germany used during World War II. Ah, there's that one too. We'll get to that one in a couple weeks. And there's that one. We'll get to that one eventually. Stick around. We're gonna cover some cool stuff. But this was really quite a unique firearm at the time, and some things that it did. Like, this was the first notable example of an underfolding stock, and that directly influenced the AK-47, which we have some kicking over there. So. And for more than a decade after, this thing was still copied, even to its almost true form, but, well, often imitated, never copied. Not truly, anyways. So we're going to take a look at this guy in all of its glory. This is a nice German fun mode enabled example, so it's the real deal, and yeah, let's get into this. Today we'll cover stats, we'll cover some history points, but just enough so you can talk about it without sounding like an idiot, you know, calling it a Schmeisser or something. We're going to go through the controls. More importantly, we're going to go through the ergonomics. How was this gun to handle and to use? What were its failures and what were its big wins? Then we'll do a good old ASMR review and I will show you guys what I consider to be the most satisfying element of this thing. Oh, hi, cat. Itty bitty kitty. At least he was when he was itty bitty. Because that's always fun. Sometimes guns are just fun to just enjoy. They can satisfy the senses. And then I'll sign off and I'll see you guys on the weekend talking about that sweet thing. But first question of the day, were you a partisan fighter stuck in occupied Europe, mid-World War II, and you got your choice, because resistance fighters had a wide array of firearms, whether they were captured from people that were occupying them or were airdropped from the resistance. Still looking for a UD-42, by the way. Anyway, so that's your prerogative. Let's see, you get the choice of the grease gun, which is hiding back here. There we go. Or the MP40. Which one you gonna take? Let me know below. I'll give you my answer at the end of the video. Now, the MP40, we'll get back to that, was chambered in 9mm Luger. That's this little guy right here next to God's caliber, 45 ACP. Now, my opinion has always been that 9mm is superior to 45 ACP, especially in a combat situation. But I'm sure I'll still get someone in the comments saying that, oh, 9mm back then wasn't loaded the same. That's why everyone used 45 ACP, and your opinion can be valid to you. Anyways, back here we have your MP40 size comparison. Well, you may not have an MP40 at home. Chances are you've got hands-on experience with one of these. Well, maybe not, actually. That'll maybe add something more of you are familiar with. So, standard AR, MP40, and the rest of the Nazi bastards for, well, representation. We have the Sturmgewehr, the broom handle, flex, little PPK, yes, they had those back then, the MP40. Its chonk cousin, the MP41. The buzzsaw, the MG42, and above it, the MG34. The new Zero Delta LVOA. And the casual Dishka, just because. Boom. Now, I will clean my room and then we will begin the lesson. Alright guys, your top facts for the MP40. This guy with an empty mag weighs just a hair over 9 pounds and is just a hair over 24 inches. If you're looking to pick one of these up yourself, well, they make a modern repro. Now they're not exactly the same, they don't even take the same mags, but they are, for all intents and purposes, a great Sunday plinker version of, well, the real thing. That fires from a closed bolt. Those are around $1,500. Now stateside, if you want the real deal, transferable, Not a Schmeisser MP40, expect to pay between like 25 and 40 grand. Probably depending on condition, whether it was actually an original MP, like a German MP40, or if it was a kit build on an American receiver. And in Europe, on the international side, generally between 3 and 6K euro, depending on condition. At least that's what I've seen. Now, the quick history on this guy is the MP40 is the simplified version of the MP38, which, while it looks the same, was basically a Gen 1 submachine gun with extensive milling and machining. That guy was based on the IRMA EMP or MP36 prototype, which itself was an outgrowth of the IRMA EMP. Namely, this sweet, fine, unique looking thing. Very telltale with that vertical wooden grip up there. This actually is the Spanish copy, and I need a bolt for it because it didn't come with one. But this was Volmer's original idea. He was a gun designer back in the interwar period. EMP kind of bought the rights to his design or whatever. He worked for them, produced that, and that went on to eventually become this. The takedown actually comes directly from this. And if you check out my B channel, there will already be a disassembly video live on this guy. So fast, so simple, if you know how to do it. Otherwise, you might be scratching your head. Anyways, they started off with a 38. They made like 42,000 of them. They were going splendidly well. They loved them, but they realized they needed a ton more of these guns because everyone that used them loved them. And yeah, Germany just realized they needed a lot more. And to do that, they needed to simplify the design. So they did. Instead of being with a milled out receiver, they went with the stampings, things like that. Greatly simplified a lot of stuff, and the MP40s were flowing. Alrighty, now let's follow our inner gun nerd down the path to finding the truth. Alright guys, take a look at the controls on this guy. So as an open bolt submachine gun, what you want to do first, according to Machine Gun Dad, check out his YouTube channel. Great wealth of knowledge. Lock, look, unload. Or lock, look, load if you're about to have some fun. And that's for open bolts because they behave differently and you don't want to cause an accident because it can happen. You can call it a negligent discharge, but really you're just a dumbass. There's lock and catch on the mag. Again, double stack, single feed. Sad, but it is what it is. Witness hole at the full amount, so you know when she's fully loaded. Now, if you want to safe the gun from the open position, pull her back, lock her up into that notch. Little S for safe. And again, you want to lock her back here, simply let it home and push it in. Now, for the purpose of extending the stock, there's a big old button right here. Give that a push. This swings down, and that does as well. Wobble included. Rear sling loop, front sling loop. Rear sight, you got 2 notches here. First one is for 100, taller one is for 200. Hooded front sight. Now, allegedly, there were some secret squirrels that got to use maybe suppressors, or they at least were designing it for the suppressors. You have to pull this little thing back and just give this guy a good twist. But this one's on there pretty good, so. But that would be pretty awesome. Now, a special feature this guy has is this right here. It's called a resting bar. And this is a really cool feature you don't really see elsewhere. Now, these were originally designed for mechanized troops, so basically any kind of vehicle you're in, the thought was you'd be using this out of it. So, for example, there are various half tracks. You could throw this over the edge of the door, and that way you'd have something preventing the barrel from accidentally coming inside and, well, adding ventilation holes. Trigger on this guy. Oh, not bad. And she's full balls to the walls only. There is no semi-auto mode on this guy. This down here is a disassembly notch. Again, check out the B channel for the disassembly video because we'll get into that and how to pull this guy apart. And ergonomics. Well, this is where this gun both shines and sucks a little bit. So center balance point is right about here. Now, the biggest win of this gun, in my opinion, as a right-hander, is the awesome erg setup. So many guns at this time were being set up for stuff on the right side of the gun, which it just doesn't make sense. It was probably for old school doctrine where, you know, you're in a bolt gun and you're coming up with your shooting hand to cycle the bolt. So they had all that kind of stuff over here. But realistically, this is staying on the gun, this is staying on your shoulder, and you're manipulating it with your support hand. So really nice to see. Mag release, so easy. And actually, it's almost like an early flared mag wall, almost. And I guess the single stack mags kind of naturally just want to kind of jet funnel in there. So that's super great. The fact that you can manipulate the safety and charge the weapon all from the this side as well. Oh, I really like that. Now, holding the gun is a little bit awkward. You got this mag in here, and you don't want to really hold it here because there is some forward to rear play in there. The mag does do a good job of supporting the mag, but there is some play and you don't want to induce a malfunction by putting too much pressure on this. So you can actually cup it up around here. This is fine, but with continuous fire, this is going to get very hot. This is the chamber. So this is where the detonation is actually going on, and it's thick, but it's going to get hot. And when it gets hot, it's going to stay hot. You can kind of do this too, but you're probably going to inadvertently be gripping the mag, so that wouldn't be good either. There are little textured surfaces here, so you're meant to grab it right around here. This is pretty good right here. Just don't bump the mag release or get in the way of the reciprocating charging handle. Now, hip fire, this is a little less comfortable than the Thompson. The Thompson is like made for hip fire. So this is a little less comfortable to squeeze in between the arm and the flank, but this is also slower fire rate and 9mm easier to control. So it's definitely, it's got enough. The only annoying thing is once you get wobble in the stock, it wobbles. So you can see even with it shouldered here, you need to have it pressed up so there's pressure downwards, so that way you're not doing this when you're shooting. Now, sight picture is actually kind of neat. It's pretty good, pretty good. Your grip is pretty raked back, more than it needs to be, but it's not terrible. It's not a deal breaker. Nice, simple, normal trigger pull, it's fine. And then of course the stock is, well, the fact that you can do this makes handling so easy because it's nice and tucked up, nice tidy package, easy to take on the go. And very fast to deploy when you need it. The gun is also, being this way, it's pretty controllable to get a few quick shots off. Sure, you can train and get decently good at hip firing, that kind of thing. All right, guys, time for your ASMR review. But first, a word from today's sponsor, MIRA Safety. Alrighty, guys, you know them, you love them. MIRA Safety, your gas mask pros. They've now gotten into not only the air purification systems, but food detoxification as well. You know how your food comes from the store and it's all got pesticides and chemicals on it, and you scrub away at it with vinegar or some other chemicals to get them off? I know we do. Well, this does that without any chemicals. You just use it on its own. Anyways, this thing looks dead simple to use, but I will leave them to explain the technical stuff behind it. I just got this and I'm sure as heck gonna use it myself because here's to clean eating. All right, guys, ASMR review time of the Schmeiser MP40. Oh, there are some really satisfying elements of this guy. For starters, it's like this is honestly one of the iconic guns to just incorporate that nice side charger. It's right there. It's so handy just for a righty anyway. So just get in there and just cycle that thing back. Very nice. But for me, that isn't the most exciting part. No, in fact, I'm gonna play with you guys a little bit here. I'm gonna send you to my B channel because the most exciting part for me, most satisfying element, is how this unit comes apart. Maybe I'm weird, but I'm like mechanics and the way that this thing works, it's cool. There's also a really neat feature inside. The way the recoil system works, it's very smart, and it's actually a really great reliability, durability feature as well. Anyways, once again, there's the card that will take you to the disassembly video. Check it out, and we'll finish the ASMR review there. Alrighty, guys, question of the day follow-up: grease gun or MP40? Grease gun, you could actually almost think of this as the American Schmeiser. So it's actually a lot more crude than the MP40. The MP40 is still a pretty refined system. Even though you would call this a Gen 2, it's a very nice Gen 2. Where this is a Gen 2 submachine gun through and through. Actually, I probably wouldn't put this on the scale of the American MP40. I'd put this on the scale of the American Sten. Not to say it isn't a fantastic weapon, and that it wasn't a great use for the effort. Which one won the war? And I'm gonna get probably a few of those comments as well. But it's just a much more crude example of a firearm. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a classic. It's fantastic. You still got these horrible designs, because again, that design bled through to this design, and I don't know why they didn't just fix it at some point. But it's like the Thompson stock. It sucked from day one, and even when they refined it in the 40s, it still sucked. Mag release definitely not as nice. It is fenced though. Well, some of the early ones weren't, but that's good. Trigger, similar. MP40 is a little better. It also doesn't feel like a tin can. This literally, yeah. It feels like something that you get in the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. Man, I am really hating on this thing, but this is fantastic. The sights are definitely worse. I would say this is more work to take apart. Still pretty easy, but not as easy. The stock is sturdier, but also not comfortable, and it has some issues of its own. But the fire rate is great. It's very controllable, and once you get it on target, you're pretty good. You can hold it there. Main reason why I would not take this gun, that's right, I would take the MP40 over the grease gun. That wasn't already obvious. It's because this was in 45 ACP. And 9mm, just if I had to deploy with one of these things, I could take twice as much 9mm as 45. But that wasn't the question. The question was if I was being deployed as a resistance fighter. Now, the Germans didn't use 45 ACP, but much more common to find 9mm in Europe at the time than 45 ACP. So even from that point of view, as a resistance fighter, it would have been better for me at that time in that place to have something chambered in 9mm. So theoretically, with every successful mission, you're going to have an opportunity to resupply your ammunition. And maybe even your firearm if you're, well, just trying to keep your MP40 going, which, honestly, it's going to keep going. Anyways, guys, it's a fun thought exercise. I like these question of the days. I usually think of them on the fly when I walk into the room and it's like, okay, what two guns do I see and what do they have in common? And then I just go with it. So let me know what you guys think, and feel free to disagree with me. And that's that. And that's this awesome black camo hoodie, which is super comfy. Boom diggity, and my signature, which they pulled off a sticky note that I drew. Pretty sick. We got tees and we got sticks. So kindly check them out. Get Gunpilled, get some merch, support the channel, help us with the ranch purchase. And in case you're wondering, this flannel is the King Elvis remake that Dixon did. It's pretty awesome. And pick yourself up a limited edition Goat Guns Arm&Gun M1 Garand. And do while you can, because there's only a limited amount and they are, oh crap, I'm out. Quick, GoldenEye reload. Yeah. Boom diggity.